If you are a United States citizen, a green card holder, someone currently waiting for an immigration case to be approved, or even someone who simply travels internationally from time to time, then chances are very high that you have recently come across some unsettling headlines. Maybe you saw them scrolling through social media late at night. Maybe a friend or family member called you sounding worried and asking if you had heard about new passport rules coming in February. Or maybe you read an article that made your heart beat just a little faster than usual. If that happened to you, I want you to pause for a moment and know this. You are not alone, and your reaction is completely human. When it comes to immigration, travel documents, and government policies, even small changes can feel enormous, especially when the information online is fragmented, sensationalized, or designed to provoke fear rather than understanding. I want to begin today by setting a very clear and intentional tone. My goal is not to scare you. My goal is not to create panic or uncertainty in your mind. Instead, my goal is to sit with you calmly and walk you through exactly what these reported passport changes actually mean, who they affect, who they do not affect, and what, if anything, you may need to do in response. I want to replace confusion with clarity. I want to replace fear with understanding. And by the time you reach the end of this video, my hope is that you feel more informed, more confident, and more at peace than you did when you first clicked on it. For those of you who may be new here, let me briefly introduce myself. I have spent many years closely following updates related to U.S. immigration policy, travel regulations, and government procedures that affect everyday people. I am not a lawyer, and I am not a government official. I do not speak on behalf of any agency. I am simply someone who believes deeply that people deserve access to clear, honest, and easy to understand information about systems that directly affect their lives. Immigration and travel rules should not feel like a maze designed to confuse or intimidate. They should be understandable, transparent, and grounded in facts. That is what I aim to provide here. Before we go any further, it is very important that I make one thing absolutely clear. Nothing I share in this video should be taken as legal advice. I am not qualified to provide legal advice, and I would never claim to be. What I am sharing is general information based on publicly available announcements, official statements, and policy updates. Every individual's situation is unique. If you have specific concerns about your passport, your immigration status, or your travel plans, the best course of action is always to consult a qualified immigration attorney or to contact the appropriate government agency directly. This video is meant to inform and educate, not to replace professional guidance. With that understanding firmly in place, let us move forward together calmly and carefully. Now, let us talk about what is actually happening with passport rules in February, because this is where much of the confusion begins. There has been a great deal of noise online: videos, posts, headlines, and rumors, and it can be very difficult to separate fact from speculation. The truth is that the changes being discussed are primarily related to updates in passport application requirements, the introduction of enhanced security features in newly issued passports, and some procedural adjustments to how passports are processed. These changes are part of a broader, ongoing effort by the U.S. State Department to modernize the passport system, improve security, and align with evolving international standards. It is important to understand that these changes are not sudden. They are not punitive, and they are not designed to target or single out any specific group of people. Government systems, especially those related to identification and travel, evolve gradually over time. Technology changes, security threats change, international norms change. Updating systems to reflect those realities is a routine part of governance, even though it can sometimes be communicated poorly or misrepresented online. One of the most talked about updates involves enhanced security features in newly issued passports. This means that passports printed after a certain date will include additional layers of protection designed to reduce fraud, counterfeiting, and identity theft. For the vast majority of people, this change will not be visible in any meaningful way. You will simply receive a passport that looks largely the same, but has more advanced security embedded within it. You do not need to apply separately for these features. You do not need to prove anything extra to qualify for them. They will be included automatically as part of new passport issuance. Another aspect of the February updates involves documentation requirements for certain applicants. In some cases, individuals applying for a new passport or renewing an existing one may be asked to provide additional supporting documents. This could include updated proof of citizenship, additional identity verification, or supplemental photographs. These requirements are not meant to create unnecessary obstacles. They exist to ensure that passports are issued accurately and securely, and that the identity of each applicant is properly verified. While this may add a small step for some people, it does not change who is eligible for a passport. This brings us to one of the most important questions. Who do these changes actually apply to? The answer is much simpler than many headlines suggest. These updates primarily apply to individuals who are applying for a U.S. passport for the first time, individuals who are renewing their passports, and individuals who need to correct or update information on an existing passport. If you already have a valid U.S. passport and you are not currently applying for a renewal or correction, these new rules do not require you to take any immediate action. I want to repeat that because I know anxiety can make it hard to fully absorb reassurance. If you have a valid U.S. passport right now and it has not expired, you do not need to rush, panic, or change your plans. Your passport remains valid until its expiration date. You can still travel. These updates affect the application and issuance process going forward, not passports that have already been issued and are still within their validity period. Now, let us address a concern that has been causing a great deal of fear online. The idea that these changes are somehow targeting immigrants, naturalized citizens, or green card holders. I want to speak to this directly and clearly. The passport updates coming in February are not targeted at any specific group. They apply equally to all U.S. citizens. It does not matter whether you were born in the United States or whether you became a citizen through naturalization. The law does not distinguish between these categories when it comes to passport eligibility. Your citizenship is valid, your rights are equal, and the new procedures do not change that fundamental reality. For naturalized citizens, I want you to hear this clearly. There is no separate set of passport rules for you. There is no additional scrutiny built into these updates that applies only to people who were not born in the United States. Your passport carries the same legal weight and recognition as any other U.S. passport. Please allow that reassurance to settle, especially if you have felt uncertainty or vulnerability in the past. For green card holders, it is important to clarify something else. Lawful permanent residents do not hold U.S. passports. Green card holders travel using the passport of their country of citizenship along with their green card, which allows them to re-enter the United States. Because of this, the new U.S. passport rules do not directly apply to green card holders. Your travel documents are governed by separate rules. If you are a green card holder and you have been feeling anxious about these headlines, you can take a breath. These changes are not aimed at you. Let us pause here for a moment. Fear often grows in silence and uncertainty. When we read alarming headlines without context, our minds tend to jump to worst-case scenarios. But most government policy updates are procedural, gradual, and designed to improve systems, not to punish people. Immigration and travel systems operate on documentation, evidence, and due process. Nothing happens overnight, and nothing happens without structure. There are also several myths circulating online that deserve to be addressed calmly and honestly. One common myth is that these new rules will make it harder for immigrants to obtain passports. The reality is that the eligibility requirements for U.S. passports have not changed. Only U.S. citizens are eligible for U.S. passports, and that remains true today. If you are a citizen, whether by birth or naturalization, you are still eligible. Procedural updates do not change that fact. Another myth is that existing passports will be canceled or recalled. This is simply not true. Passports that have already been issued remain valid until their printed expiration date. The government is not recalling passports, and it is not canceling them without due process. Revocations are extremely rare and involve serious legal circumstances, not routine policy updates. There is also fear surrounding dual citizenship. While dual citizens sometimes face specific considerations when traveling internationally, the February updates do not single out dual citizens for special treatment. Dual citizenship is legal in the United States, and millions of Americans live their lives without issue while holding citizenship in more than one country. The internet often magnifies rare cases and presents them as common experiences. Stories of passport denials or revocations can sound frightening, but they are the exception, not the rule. In the vast majority of cases, applications are processed smoothly. Problems usually arise only when there are serious documentation issues, fraud, or unresolved legal matters. Ordinary, law abiding people generally navigate the system without difficulty. So, what should you actually do in response to all of this? First, if your passport is nearing its expiration date, consider renewing it early. This is good advice, regardless of rule changes. Second, make sure your documents are organized and complete when applying. Third, plan ahead and be patient with processing times. And finally, resist panic. Verify information through official sources, not social media speculation. I also want to acknowledge something deeper. Immigration is not just paperwork, it is emotional. It affects your sense of belonging, your security, and your future. Feeling afraid does not mean something bad is happening. Fear often comes from uncertainty. The key is not to let that fear control your decisions. You are not alone in this journey. Millions of people have walked this path before you. Support exists, information exists, and clarity is always possible when we slow down and seek facts instead of fear. As we close, remember this: procedural changes do not erase your rights. Your status is protected by law. Staying informed is important, but staying calm is equally important. Knowledge and peace can exist together. Thank you for spending this time with me. Wherever you are in your immigration or travel journey, I wish you patience, clarity, and peace. You are doing the right thing by staying informed, one step at a time.